What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. The Wagner Group in Russia, the Russian mercenary group, has said that what Putin said to start the war was all a lie, and he's now telling the world about it. And I'll show it to you here. Also, Russian state TV is now saying that Russia should use nukes after the strike on the Crimean Bridge, and this could start a nuclear war. And if nuclear war starts, this could be the start of World War III or something. I mean, nuclear war starts. It's look out here. So let me give you all the details. Here we go. Okay, first up, Yevgeny Prigozhin, the head of the Wagner Group, the Wagner mercenary group, has accused Moscow of lying to the public about Ukraine and thus thereby has accused Putin of lying. He's basically the only top Russian elite and the only Russian that can accuse Russia or Putin of lying and not be offed. And really, it's because he has an army surrounding him. I'm really shocked that he's actually even able to say this kind of stuff and get away with it at this point. So this is massive, massive news. Here's what he's saying here. He's dismissing justification for war that Kyiv was planning a 2022 attack on Donbas and Crimea. Here's what he says. The Wagner Group head, Prigozhin, has accused Moscow's leadership, and thereby Putin, of lying to the public about justifications for invading Ukraine in the latest signs of conflict between Vladimir Putin's government and one of his most important allies. In an explosive 30-minute video posted on his Telegram channel, which you can go watch it for yourself. Obviously he speaks Russian though. Prigozhin dismissed Moscow's claims that Kyiv was planning to launch an offensive on the Russian-controlled territories in eastern Ukraine back over a year ago. A year and 4 months, we're getting close to a year and 5 months, saying, quote, there was nothing extraordinary happening on the eve of February 24th, he said. The Ministry of Defense is trying to deceive the public and the president and spin the story that there was insane levels of aggression from the Ukrainian side and that they were going to attack us together with the whole NATO bloc, which obviously NATO still hasn't attacked Russia and started a World War III type of situation or anything like that. So, shortly after Russia attacked Ukraine, Putin claimed Moscow's invasion had thwarted Ukraine's own plans for a massive attack on the Donbas and then on Crimea. Prigozhin also said Russia's leadership could have avoided the war by negotiating with Ukraine's President Zelensky. Quote, when Zelensky became president, he was ready for agreements, and that needed to be done was to get off Mount Olympus and negotiate with him. The Wagner Group head, Prigozhin, had been arguing with top military officials for months, blaming the Minister of Defense, Sergei Shoigu, for battlefield failures. And his latest tirade appears to be a new escalation as the warlord directly contradicts Putin's rationale for the invasion, implying it was based on lies in what amounts to the harshest criticism by any prominent Russian war figure of the decision to attack Ukraine, saying, quote, what was the war for? The war needed for Shoigu to receive a hero star. The oligarch clan that rules Russia needed the war. And honestly, we see countries do this. Some people think that the US has done this with past wars. Different countries have different agendas for different wars. In this case, I think it's pretty clear, a lot of people think that Russia did this to try to take over Ukraine and take the land for themselves. They did this with Crimea and it worked. Okay. They were able to take over Crimea, in fact, without even a battle. However, Ukraine was a much bigger country with 45 million people to start. Several million people fled, mostly women and children, and Ukraine put up a battle. Crimea didn't. They were much, much smaller and had no chance. So ultimately, Russia was hoping that the same thing would happen, that they'd be able to take over the country, take over the resources, the oil, the resources there, and thereby the people that would then ultimately pay them taxes, and they would gain billions or trillions of dollars in the process, and more people for their army, and it would be a great victory. It didn't work out so well for them this time. So, yeah, now it's actually been a massive defeat unless somehow in the end they're able to take it over. At this point, they're nowhere close to it. They're only like 10% into the country. Even Prigozhin, the head of the Wagner Group, said it took him 224 days to take over one city, Bakhmut, all the way on the Eastern Front. Prigozhin, the head of the Wagner Group, pulled out of Bakhmut, and the Russian army took it over, and the Russian army themselves lost it in a matter of days. So the Wagner Group, the mercenary group, was actually a massive, massive part of the Russian army, even though they're like a mercenary group, a group for hire. And this shows you what actually happened when the full Russian army took over. They were actually much worse than the Wagner Group. And it took the Wagner Group 224 days to take over one city far on the Eastern Front towards Russia. So, you always get some people that say, "Oh, Russia's going to win the war. Russia's going to win the war." It took them 224 days to take over one city way on the Eastern Front by Russia. That's only maybe 10% of the way into the country. There's still 90% of the country left to go. How could they win the war unless they use nuclear weapons and start a nuclear war? Which then NATO could jump into, which the United States is part of NATO, and then we have a nuclear war, which could lead to the end of times. Which leads us to what Russia has been saying here on their TV network, which is controlled by Russian government. It's controlled by state TV, similar to how Germany was in World War II. You only know what they're telling you. So a lot of Russian people only know what they're telling them. Their internet is blocked, similar to China. You can't just go on Google and Google whatever you want. It's literally blocked. You can't go on YouTube there. You surely can't go on YouTube and say whatever you want there. First of all, it's blocked. Second of all, you would literally be thrown in prison. But Putin ally doubles down on calls to use nukes after strike on the Crimean bridge, which just happened here. I'll show you a quick clip. Take a listen here. I'll show you this clip of what happened here, and then I will show you what the Russian state TV, which is telling the Russian people here, what they should do is use nuclear weapons, which is pretty serious. This is what the Russian people are hearing on a daily basis. So take a listen.
Moscow is blaming Kyiv for a strike on a strategic bridge known as the Gate to Crimea. A Russian-installed official said the damage is forcing traffic to be temporarily rerouted. The Chonhar Bridge connects occupied Crimea and Russian-held parts of Ukraine's southern Kherson region. So far, no official comment from Kyiv, which has said it wants to retake all of its occupied land. Moscow annexed Crimea from Ukraine back in 2014. CNN's Ben Wiedemann joins us live in Zaporizhzhia, Ukraine. What have you learned about this, Ben?
Well, what we understand, according to the head of the Russian-occupied Kherson region, that 4 missiles were fired at this bridge early Thursday morning, and that one actually struck it, causing a large crater. And as you said, all traffic is now being diverted from this bridge on the eastern side of the land, of the area that connects Crimea with Kherson. Now, according to this official, they believe that what could have struck the bridge is one of these Storm Shadow missiles, a long-range cruise missile. It has about a range of more than 250 kilometers. This is a missile jointly developed by France and the UK, and it was just last month that Britain announced that it would be supplying the Ukraine with that missile. Now, as far as we can tell, the Ukrainians are being a bit mum about all of this. CNN did contact someone with the intelligence service who said that Ukraine will continue its security, its intelligence, its military, and also local resistance to try to expel the Russians and bring Ukrainian control back to Crimea, since it was occupied in 2014. But he said that beyond that, their only comment is to be continued.
And here's what Russian state TV is telling Russians about using nuclear weapons. Take a listen.
То есть любая попытка попытаться это сделать, пойти против воли российского народа, который однозначно высказал, должен быть удар. И этот придурок, министр юстиции, должен познакомиться с арматами. Каждый из дегенератов, который считает себе позволительным то, что они сделали, должен ответить.
So let me know your thoughts here in the comments, and I'll let you know about everything going on here that you need to know about. If you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe down below. Click the bell icon afterwards. It's completely free to do so. This way you won't miss out on any new videos here. Also, thanks so much for liking and sharing our videos. Here's some videos you should watch next. What is happening at Home Depot has people very concerned. And 99% of Americans were not expecting both Biden and Putin to say this. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.